Hi everyone, thanks for joining us tonight. I can see people starting to trickle in slowly, so that's really great. We'll just give it a couple of minutes before we kick off. So just bear with us for a couple of minutes. We'll give everyone a chance to log in and we'll get started. Thanks everyone for coming in. I can see a few more people trickling in slowly. Might give it just a couple more minutes just before we get started. Thanks everyone. All right, so we're just hitting 6:32, so I might kick off. Just to get started, I'll go through some Zoom housekeeping. So this is a webinar format, so you won't be able to see or hear yourself. If you do have any questions for Ruth throughout the webinar, just pop them through the Q&A box. It should be towards the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Just type them through and I'll get them over to Ruth to be answered live to you. If you have any technical issues, just pop them in the chat box and I'll see what I can do to help you. Yeah, so I might pass on to Ruth. We're very lucky to have her with us tonight. Ruth is a very skilled knotting and weaving artist, and she's going to be doing a 1-hour demo on macrame, which is really, really exciting. We haven't done something like this before, so it should be really fun. Yeah, and I'll pass over to Ruth.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks so much for having me. It's really exciting being here. I'm really honoured to have the opportunity. I'm reporting to you from my studio here in Annandale in Sydney, and I would like to acknowledge the first people of the lands where I live and work, traditionally the Gadigal and Wangal peoples of the Eora Nation, and recognise their continuing connection to country and community. I pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. So let's get started. I'm afraid I can't see the participants, but hope that you have some materials, at least perhaps a stick, a dowel would be fantastic. If not, a hanger can even work really well. Something solid would be great. And so we'll start with the setup, because with macrame, you need to do it in what we're doing it tonight. It needs to be done on some sort of rod. So I've just grabbed some t-shirt cord. This is recycled t-shirt material. You can cut up old t-shirts. There's another workshop we could do maybe one day to make this cord. So just a simple knot, winding it around, and you can trim that at the end, but a good double knot. This could go over a picture hook, because what we'll be doing today is just a sampler, so nothing too heavy. You could just take a picture off the wall and hook this up. If not, a door handle will work. Obviously, you'll just need to bring your screen, get a little stool or a cushion. You can work with this on a door handle. I'm just going to share my screen with you now to show you some alternatives to that. And let's have a look. So while you get set up with your stick or hanger or whatever it may be, I'll give you a few minutes. This is the result of my first macrame lesson as an adult. I was doing it as a kid a lot, but I had a refresher with a wonderful teacher in Sydney. And this is really just 2 or 3 knots and a few pom-poms, but done in a lot of different ways. There's some plaits in there as well, but using multiple cords or singles. But a lot of these knots are versions of what we're going to do tonight, which is starting with the spiral knot and then going to the square knot, which is the fundamental knot of macrame. Here's the example of what I just showed you, the little dowel, and just on a picture hook. And another great way is if you have big, large hooks, always available from hardware stores, or $2 shops have these as well. Again, this is just over a door and makes for a very, very good, solid way to work with macrame. So here is the spiral knot. You see the spiral knot in a lot of plant hangers, which is, you know, real thing from the 70s and certainly having a re-emergence these days. But it's a beautiful and quite simple, straightforward knot. And it is, in fact, the first step to the square knot. And that's why I would like to start with that tonight. So let's get going with some thread. Karen, do we know if people are set up with their rods yet, and if we can start going ahead with thread?
Yeah, I think we can get going. Guys, if you do have any issues with your setup, if you're doing this along with Ruth or you're just watching, just let us know if you have any issues. Put it in the chat box. If you're having trouble setting up, we can always try and get some help for you. So we'll get going. Yeah, and if there's any issues, just let us know. I think Adelaide and April have let us know, all set up, all ready to go.
Lovely.
That's great.
Okay. So you may have pre-cut cord. Yeah, I just saw in the chat box, yes, absolutely, use a wooden hanger. Even, you know, if you're totally desperate for materials, pantyhose will work. So, you know, they're the great length, soft to use, pantyhose over a hanger. Ribbon, string, all these things will work. Pantyhose is a bit thicker, and what I work with is more chunky cords. So that's a great way to start. So taking some cord or whatever you have, and if you've got it pre-cut, then fine. 2 arms lengths will work really well. So just cutting each cord, and we need 2 cords. So starting with a double arm's length, just measuring it across the body, roughly 1 and 2, and doing 2 of those. So you can just use the first one to measure the second.
Alice has just asked if you can advise about the cord thickness, what you'd suggest for that.
Yeah, well, I'm using, this is about a 0.9. This is from Spotlight. Another great thing to use is t-shirt yarn, and I'll show you a few pictures of my work and what I've done with these. They're just lovely on the hands. It's great when you're a beginner. It's chunky, it looks really good. So generally macrame cord that is sold in Spotlight is just the one size. It's about, you get about 50 meters, about $10 or $15. At the end, I'll show you a slide with several different stockists that are really great, Australian stockists, and have just fabulous colours and assortment for this sort of thing. So I'm just going to bring you over now closer to my workstation. And we're going to start with the spiral cord, which is here and here as well, but just with a few gaps. So you need 2 cords. We're going to fold the first one in half, getting a little loop at the top. But we're not going to put it on straight away, because what we actually want to do is have the right-hand cord longer than the left-hand cord. The right-hand cord is going to be twice the length of the left hand. So we're just moving that one up so that in the end you have the left-hand cord half the length of the right-hand one. The reason being is it's going to be the right-hand cord that does all the knotting. So again, right-hand cord is long, left-hand cord is short. It doesn't have to be too exact, but just more or less that the left hand is half the length of the right. We're going to place this hook over your rod and pull the cords through. So again, right-hand cord is long, left-hand cord is short. We're going to do the same thing, but opposite with your second cord. So just looking at what you've got already there, measure up the right hand to be short and the left to be long. And creating a hook, putting that over your rod and pulling the 2 cords through. Starting neat, starting together, pulling it tight, making sure there's no curls or bumps. So the 2 short cords in the middle are called filler cords. The reason being is that they create the inside of the knot. They're actually not doing any of the work. So we're starting with the right-hand cord and we're going to cross over those 2 fillers, creating a bit of a triangle. Then the left crosses over the top of that one and then comes under and through. And that is your first knot of the spiral. And you're just going to be repeating that. So just having a look. I hope everybody's set up okay. Taking the right, crossing over those 2, taking the left, crossing over the 1 and coming through. So again, we are just repeating that. If you want to stop and have a good look before you start. Right, crosses over 2, left over 1, behind and through. So this is the first stage of the square knot. But in order to create a spiral, we just repeat this over and over.
Yeah, fantastic. It's already starting to take shape. Looks great.
Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. And you keep them quite close together to keep it going. Now, what you'll find as you repeat this is that it starts twisting. And you feel like, oh, you're starting to sort of work on the side, or what do you have to do? Do you have to turn it around? But the beauty of this knot is you can just turn it around and keep going and nothing changes. right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. So you're just repeating on the other side until that twist comes around again. And you can just turn it to work comfortably. I always think it's really important with any craft that you're set up well, that you're comfortable, that you're not hurting your neck or your shoulders. One can get so into it that you're there for like an hour and
you forget time exists. Yeah, that's right.
Ripping the jaw or whatever it is. That, you know, work should be in front of you and you should be contorting. You try and always keep it in front of you and at a good position. Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. How is everybody going with that?
So I think there's just people can't quite see. Yeah, is it possible to just move the laptop a bit closer just to get a bit of a closer look? I think people are just having a bit of trouble seeing.
Right comes over the 2 fillers, make a triangle. The left comes over that first cord, behind the 2 in the middle and through. I'll do that again. Was that a little bit better visually?
Guys, just put through the chat box if that sort of improves the view. Yeah, we'll just keep going.
I can put some extra lights on. The only thing is that it creates a bit of a shadow behind.
Maybe we'll try with the lights, see if that improves it a bit.
Sure, 1 second.
Thank you, Ruth. Just bear with us, guys. Sorry, we're trying to get it a bit closer up for you so you can see a bit better.
Is that a little bit? It's a bit of a sideways light.
A little bit, yeah. Guys, you should be able to change your screen to, let me see. I've just changed the attendee view to speaker. So that should make Ruth's screen full screen. Just let me know if that's also helping, guys. We'll just keep going. Yeah.
Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through.
Okay, so a few people have just written in that it's much better with the full screen. Okay, so we're getting a much better view now. That's great. Thanks for that feedback, guys.
And the lighting, is it better?
Yes, I think the lighting is helping, yeah. Thank you, Ruth.
Pleasure. I could try one more light. Hang on.
Bear with us, guys. We're working with it.
Do get a bit
yeah,
of
that's great. Yeah, thank you, Ruth.
Pleasure. Okay, taking the right cord over the 2 fillers, taking the left over that 1 right cord, behind and through. Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. And you can see we're getting a lovely spiral here. It can be nice to leave a gap and start again. You get that lovely void and create different patterns that way. Or we can just keep going. How are we going for time? We think we might need to start on our next one if people are going all right.
Yeah, just let us know how you're going, guys.
Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through.
Giovanna says she's going great, so that's good to hear. Amy said she's also going great. Wonderful.
Fantastic. So this is the spiral knot, right?
So Amy's just asked, how do you leave the gap and then restart?
Literally, you just choose your point that you would like to start again. So I'll, you know, leave 10 centimeters and just continue the knot. Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. The only thing to be conscious of there is that your filler cords are nice and straight and taut, and that the outside cords are equal and everything is looking quite neat and of the same length.
Fantastic.
Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. And then when you pull up that second knot, it's going to keep that gap in place.
Beautiful.
I think maybe that light is creating too much shadow now. Do you mind if I just turn it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
No worries. Good to see you're going good on that as well, Sue. So just let us know how you're going, everyone. Hopefully the bigger screen's helping you see a little bit better. Good to see that so many people are. Yeah, we've got Aaron saying.
Is that still clear enough? It's just a lot less shadow. And
I think it's still clear, and there's less glare now as well, so that's good.
So leaving that nice gap, keeping things of equal space so that you can just start again below it. Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. And just tucking things in, trying to keep equal tautness, makes for a really neat knot. And that's something, I guess, with time gets a lot easier to just keep things nice and equal. Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. So I might just show you a few photos of some of the work that I've done that has come from my learning macrame and basketry. Also loom weaving. This is one of my earlier works. Again, this is just using the square knot and the spiral knot, which you've just learnt. And we're about to move on to the square knot in a few minutes. This is one of my larger works, and what I really love to do with my work is study aspects of nature. I usually start with that, whether it's hearing an interview about seaweed or beekeeping or learning something with Basketry New South Wales, and I'm a member with them. There's always some starting point which includes my own education about the natural aspects of our world. So this is obviously inspired by seaweed, and I make the ceramic beads that I put into my weavings. All the materials that I use are, cottons or wools or felts. And I like to incorporate a lot of different types of knots. Sometimes I'm making them up, sometimes I've learnt them in basketry, sometimes they're something that I've made up on my own, or they're part of a general weaving technique. And again, this is from inspired by the Ku-ring-gai eucalypt tree and their flowers. I've got pom-poms in here, flat beads, rounded beads. I like to wrap shapes that I make in different wools using organic shapes. This is called driftwood. This is one of my earliest large works. I use a backing that I create, which is just a simple square knot backing, which lends itself to giving it a nice sort of webbing look at the back. And I've got felts and wools that I've collected over the years from all over the world in this, knotting, pom-poms, and some of the knots that you're learning here tonight as well. So spiral knot, that's what you've just learnt. And now let's move on to the square knot, which is one of the most fundamental macrame knots. For this, again, we're going to use 2 cords. And so it would be good to grab those now. Again, let's do 2 cords of equal length, double like we did for the spiral knot. So I'm just going to grab some lovely pink and let's measure out 2 arms lengths. Has everybody got enough materials?
Yeah, let us know through the chat box, guys, if you've got everything ready to go.
Putting the beads in can be a bit of a business, but generally I thread cord through the center and knot them on either side to hold them, because they do really weigh down a weaving. And if they're a flat bead, then I, you know, just knot it through the top. Takes a bit of mucking around with, depending on what the surrounding knots are, and how to make it sit properly. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thanks for that question, Kaylee. Yeah. And I just wanted to say those artworks were very beautiful, Ruth, especially the color work of the seaweed was just really, really stunning. Yeah, wonderful stuff.
Thanks a lot. It was really fun.
I bet.
We have a lot of amazing women who are in the seaweed business in Australia, down south, Jervis Bay and the south coast towards Melbourne. There's quite a long history of women collecting seaweed, using it for either for foods or beauty products, and that's been carried on. That was, you know, there was quite a famous woman doing it in the 70s, and that's been carried on by some other women. But we're at quite the forefront of it in Australia with our lovely clean oceans. Yeah. And there are some wonderful products coming out of there. If anyone's interested, I can direct you at another time. It's not at the end of, it's not in the PowerPoint, but
yeah, just very beautiful.
Thanks. Okay, so again, we're going to do a similar thing to how we did it for the spiral knot. Halving your cord, creating a little hook at the top, moving that left side up so that it is half the length, more or less, of the right hand side, hooking it over, pulling the 2 cords through, and just wiggling it so that it is the right dimension for you. The right hand side is approximately twice the length of the left hand side.
We just had a question from Judy. For the square knot, are all ropes equal or shorter for the middle filler?
So similar to the spiral knot, we're going to make those fillers in the middle short. And yeah, same thing on the first rope, the left hand side will be shorter. On the second cord, the right hand side will be shorter. So exactly the same as what you did for the spiral knot. And we're going to take our hook over your rod, pull the 2 through and even it up so that your 2 filler cords are more or less equal, tightening at the top, keeping them pretty close together. So the first step to the spiral knot, to the square knot, is the same
as the spiral knot. The second step is slightly different. So how did we start? Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. Now, when you look at that one loop knot that you've done, you can sort of see that your left hand cord is sticking out the back and your right hand cord is coming forward. What you have to remember for this second step always is the one that sticks out the back is the next one to come across. So we're going to take that one, put it over 2, right over 1, behind and through. So what we actually did was just the reverse. We did a spiral knot for the first stage and we did the reverse of that for the second step. And now we have a square knot. So again, which side do we start with? You look for the cord that points to the back. If you can see it, it's sticking out the back. And we're going to start now with the right-hand side. Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. Again, if you're feeling like you're getting mixed up, look for which cord is pointing towards the back. Again, now it's the left side. You take the left over 2, right over 1, behind and through. And what you should see is that you're getting these loops alternating on either side. Can you see? Try and get you up close. Is that clear?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ruth.
And then we just continue like that, looking for which one is pointing to the back, taking that cord first, right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. And you just continue. And this is the square knot. Always keeping them tight and together. If you, again, want to create a gap, it's nice to have that pattern so that here I've got 2 loops on the right side, 2 loops on the left side. And if I wanted to create a gap, now is a nice equal time to do that. Create a little gap, start again. The one that's sticking out the back is the left. So left over 2, right over 1, behind and through. And just trying to keep my filler cords nice and flat and the outside of equal dimension. Looking for the cord that's sticking out the back, which is now the right one. Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through.
How's everyone going with that? Just let us know how you're going along with that in the chat box. If you're having any issues, just let us know.
So macrame has been around for a very long time. The Babylonians and the Assyrians used to do it, used to plait the edges of their garments. There's archaeological markings on stones that show different knot patterns being used during that era. In Japan, from the Jomon period, which is started about 1300 BC, they've actually found bracelets that have different forms of weaving and plaiting that have survived. And sailors used to do it when they didn't have much on, creating hammocks, creating belts. And it was actually through the sailors during the medieval period that macrame knotting started to travel around to different countries, to Europe, to parts of Southeast Asia, and even Queen Mary in the 1700s used to teach her ladies in waiting how to do macrame. So it's
fascinating.
Really, it's been around for a very long time. We all just think, oh, it's so 1970s, but it's actually wonderful. That's, you know, I guess
rich history.
As soon as people had tools, they started making things. They started to create with the fibers that were around them, or also were able to, you know, start with decorating as well. Different macrame knots also used for fringing, for camel bags, to keep flies away, and you know, so decorative as well as very useful.
Fascinating stuff. Benita's just said that she's going okay. I think she said she's using t-shirt yarn, so it's a little bit harder, but she's going okay with it.
Okay, that's good.
Jillian's just said it's really well explained. Thank you. So it looks like everyone's doing pretty well.
Excellent. So if you do have enough thread, would like to show you an alternating square knot. And that just means you're using more cords and creating a bit of a web. So I'll just grab some thread and show you how to do that. If you have 4 cords, would be wonderful. Or if you're happy just continuing to go with what you've got, that's fine. But while I've got you all, I'll just show you this because it's the same knot, but just with a different effect. This time, I'm just going to do them in half. I'm not going to make the one side longer or shorter.
So Arabella's just asked, how would you go about starting a macrame project? Do you sort of map it out first? Do you make a drawing or a plan just to sort of lay it out?
I think, you know, a great way to go about it is perhaps to look at Pinterest and get some ideas. There are a lot of patterns on there. There are a lot of examples, whether you want to just do a wall hanging or, you know, you can do it very fine and do a bracelet. You get a lot of ideas. And if you're the type of person that works well with a design first, certainly draw it out. But I think to start, if you are a beginner, start by either being inspired by other works, and you can patch bits together. So you're not exactly copying, but sometimes copying something exactly, you learn how to do it and then you can run with it. So it's like anything, you learn the recipe, you follow the recipe. The first few times you can cook it really well, and then you get more used to it. You add the spices that you want to, you start inventing.
Yeah,
I think
fantastic.
Pinterest is a fantastic place to start. There's just so much on there, and it just is very inspiring.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that question, Arabella.
I'm taking 4 cords, and I'm going to space them a little bit apart this time. And I'm going to start with a square knot on the right hand side, right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. left over 2, right over 1, behind and through. So just keeping it nice and neat, keeping the lengths here equal. Then I'm going to go to the next chord, do exactly the same thing, right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. Left over 2, right over 1, behind and through. So that these 2 knots are sitting next to each other and everything has a nice equidistant look to it. Now, I'm going to put those 2 aside and work with these 2 in the middle. And this is where you get the alternating look. Using now these 2 as the fillers, thinking about the distance up here, trying to make that equal with my next stitch. So these 2 become the fillers, right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. Left over 2, right over 1, behind and through. So all I've done is a square stitch, square knot here, a square knot here, and then instead of doing the same thing going down, I've done one in the middle. And so you start to get this sort of framed look. And then you go back and repeat what you've done up here. So taking these 2 middle chords and creating another knot equidistant. Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. And just, you can decide at this point, do you want a rounded look? Do you want a straight look in the way that you shape that outer chord? Finishing off that square knot. And always working on the same line as you go. So don't keep going down there. You start with this knot, you go to the left, you go to the middle, and you keep sort of zigzagging your way down. So now creating another square stitch next to the other one. Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. Left over 2, right over 1, behind and through. And this is called an alternating square knot. So you can do this with an absolute multitude of chords. But again, just remembering that you need to go line by line. So I would love, if anyone wants to send me pictures of what you've done, I would absolutely be delighted to see what everyone's made or where they've put it, or if they'd like to learn some more.
Yeah, definitely, guys. If you're happy to send your pictures over through to me, I'll get the notes out to you after the webinar, and maybe you can just reply to me and send some pictures through of what you've made, and we can share that with Ruth. And yeah, just get some feedback from you guys. I hope you're all going well. Let us know in the chat box if that one's going well for you too.
And we are recording this tonight, so if you need to look at anything again, you'll be able to access it. At the same time, if you want to take any pictures now, sometimes often when I do workshops, I ask the teacher if I can record. That's fine with me tonight. If you want to just me to give another sample of doing the stitch and my explanation of how to do it, I'm happy for you to do a short video as long as it's not reposted anywhere. But for your own, to have that reminder can be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Diane has said that she's loving it, and as soon as they're well, they'll be doing some macrame. I think they're just a bit under the weather at the moment, so just watching along, and we'll get into it as soon as they can.
So that's the alternating square knot. As I said again, you can do a lot of different chords of this. It can also be fun to use double the amount of chords. That makes a really, really amazing look. I did promise one more knot before we finish up, so I'll show you that, and if we have the time, I'll show you what the thicker look looks like. So if everyone is happy to move on, I've got a very, very easy knot to show you. And sharing now. So there's the square knot that you've done. Here's the alternating square knot that we've just done. And this is called the alternating half hitch. And it's just got a beautiful effect and is really, really, really easy. So grabbing 2 more chords. Just what I'm going to do.
Amy's just put through that it's a wonderful and creative idea. She's doing this with her daughter now, and it'll be a really great term break project for the school holidays. So that's really great to hear, Amy. Thanks for putting that through.
Great stuff. Okay, so just looping in the middle now. How's my angle for you? 1 chord. I'm taking a rather big one, looping it through. Taking the right over the left, behind and through. Taking the left over the right, behind and through. And that's it. That's the whole knot. Taking the right over the left, behind and through. And keeping it nice and equidistant as you go. And that's what gives that lovely effect. Taking the right over the left, behind and through.
So I think Judy's just asked how many strings in this chord. It's just the one.
This is just 1 chord.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, thank you. Hope that helps, Judy.
Right over left, behind and through. Left over right, behind and through. And it's just a simple chain. Again, you can pull it tight and it has a completely different look, or loose, but I just think it's really, really effective and really pretty and easy.
Yeah, beautiful. Gillian's just asked if that chord was also from Spotlight.
Yeah, this is a t-shirt cord. I don't think I bought it there. I've been collecting for years. I have a whole rainbow coloured assortment in my studio, but they definitely have very, very similar to this. They've got a good range. And as I said, the last clip I'll share with you in a minute. I've got quite a few different places where you could get different t-shirt yarns. In fact, I can show that to you now. You want to just grab your phones to take a quick photo. Now, is it sharing yet?
Not yet.
No, why doesn't it want to do it? There we go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So here's the half hitch, just a few chords of it. And here's my Instagram. Would love you to follow me, and my website, and a list of some of my favourite stockists in Australia. Some are in New South Wales, one's in Adelaide, but they've all got just fabulous, fabulous things.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I hope that helps you guys just find the materials you're looking for and you get a good fit for what you're trying to do.
Etsy's another place to look, but you just find that a lot of the stockists are overseas. Takes a lot longer at the moment, but and it's lovely supporting Australian businesses.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
a lot of my materials are from all of these places, including things that I make for basketry materials, raffia, t-shirt yarns, thick felt wools. I do love the chunkier stuff, and they've all got really great selection. Some Sue at the Yarn Hub, she dyes her own, so you get some incredible and interesting wools and colours from her. So yeah, wonderful. String Harvest has things from Japan. Yeah, it's fun. For me, it's like a lolly store.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Pleasure.
I think we just had a question. Benita has asked if you have any recommendations for scissors to cut the macrame cord. She said, my normal scissors hate this stuff. She's having a bit of trouble.
Yeah, sure.
That.
I bought these at Spotlight. They are my absolute special favourites. They are by Fiskars, Fiskars. They're absolutely amazing. I was making a lot of pom-poms at the time, and scissors hate pom-poms, but these are just fantastic. They're not cheap, but really, really worth it. The other thing with scissors and yarn is that you should really only use it for your yarn. Don't use the same scissors for paper and cardboard and then expect them to stay really sharp for your wools and your t-shirt yarns. Just keep your paper scissors for paper and cardboard and your good ones for your craft work.
Yeah, fantastic. So Judy's just says she's lost her way on the half hitch. Would it be possible for you to just repeat that once more? Thank you.
Absolutely. So left over right. So looking at the last one, if you've lost your way, just look at which way that came through. I can see that this was my right hand one. So now I know that the left is next. Left over right and through. Right over left and through. Left over right and through. Right over left and through.
Perfect. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Gillian's just asked those stockists that you recommended, do they stock pattern books such as for other types of crafts like hanging baskets and things like that?
Some of them do. Some of them do, not all of them. Kinokuniya in Sydney has a great range of craft books, a lot of them overseas. I'll show you my all-time favourite macrame book, which I got from there. It's just, they've got a wonderful, wonderful way of explaining things. Sometimes when you're a novice, reading crochet patterns or macrame patterns, but this, it's a Japanese published book and it's just amazing. It's my Bible.
There you go,
Yeah.
guys. I might just put that in the chat so people can see. So
Sure.
it's Macrame pattern book. Do you have the author for that one?
It's by Marchen, Marchen Art Studio.
Yep. All right, I put that in the chat, guys. If you're interested, yeah, feel free to grab that book just to help you get started.
And yeah, generally, once you start your work, you don't take it off the rod unless, you know, you're working on a plant hanger where you need to take it off the rod. Generally, what we're playing with tonight is to make a wall hanging, to learn different knots, and to end up with something like the wall hanging that I showed you in the beginning, which was my beginner sampler, just including a whole lot of different knots on a rod and seeing how they can all come together texture wise. So generally, yeah, once the knots are on, unless you have an idea or you want to put it somewhere else, the idea is that the knots stay together and it stays on the rod as a wall hanging.
Yeah, beautiful. And Joanne has also asked, can you advise if there are any types of yarn that you would not recommend for macrame? So I think she's just sort of after the best types of yarn that you would use for macrame.
Look, I think it's really great starting with you know, something like Macrame Cord, of which there's quite a few colors around, all the ones that were in my first slide, and if you like I can share that with you again. So I'm not so quick at this. Let's go back to all these colors were available at Spotlight. You can see that, pinks and blues and lovely greens. So it really is great. It's sturdy, it's strong, and t-shirt yarn is also fantastic. So that comes in a really big, I can't remember how many meters are in this, but you can really do lots with that, and lots of colors, all available in those at those websites that I showed you, or Instagram posts that will lead you to a website. What else? I guess starting off with wool or something that's stretchy is somewhat more difficult in the early days because it's harder to keep your knots neat and equidistant. Wool is so fine that, yeah, threads can get intertwined. So I just think starting off chunky is very satisfying. You get to complete a work much more quickly, and you don't get your knots in a knot. So that's the way I started. It's nice on the hands, but really, you know, stockings, whatever you've got around the house, t-shirts. I mean, again, that's another little workshop, but you can Google it, but you can cut up your old t-shirts to make, you know, it doesn't quite look as smooth as this, but that is a possibility, and it's, again, has a really nice effect.
Yeah, I think it's definitely creative and innovative. So if you have any old t-shirts lying around, give it a go, guys. We've just got a couple minutes left, so I'll just go through some last minute questions and then we'll wrap up. I think Yulia has asked if you can show the alternating square knot again, if that's all right.
Yep.
Yeah,
This one.
yeah, so we might just finish off on that. So we'll do that for Yulia, and then we will wrap up.
All right. So again, we have, if you're taking any notes, we've got 4 cords, equal distance. We started with a square knot on either side, using the 2 cords on that side doing one square knot, and oops, and then doing on the next side. When we went into the middle, we took the 4 cords that were in the middle. So if we're starting again, more or less in that same position, you start with these 4 cords, because you've got that one in the middle, you know the next line down has to be below it and to the right. So right over 2, left over 1, behind and through, keeping things nice and equidistant in length. Left over 2, right over 1, behind and through. I'm just going to shorten that a bit so that it goes along with the pattern that was before lengthwise. And then I can see that the next one over is on the left. Right over 2, left over 1, behind and through. Trying to keep it on the same line as the right-hand side knot. Left over 2, right over 1, behind and through. So what you're doing, instead of when you started the square knots, you're just having another lot next to it, doing the same thing, but you're bringing it together when you do the next line down, and that creates this lovely sort of webbed pattern. So same as a single cord, but putting another one next to it, and then on the second row and the 4th row, you're bringing them together.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for explaining that again. I hope that helped, Yulia. Oh yes, and she's just said thank you. You're very welcome, Yulia. So we've just hit 7:30, so I think we'll wrap up. Thank you so much, Ruth, for showing us that and going through it so easily for us to understand. And I hope everyone who attended really enjoyed as well. This will be recorded, so if you are sort of, your memory is a bit, I forget things all the time. So if you do need to revisit the method, we will make it available on our YouTube page for you to revisit. So thank you very much. And thank you, Ruth. What a wonderful
Thank you.
webinar.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's so nice to share this. It's such a lovely, easy, meditative thing to do. It's great for lockdown, gets the creative brain flowing, and I had a great time, and it's lovely to share this. Thanks.
That's fantastic. I think there's a lot of feedback coming through the chat box. A lot of people are saying
send me
thank
photos.
you.
I would just really, really love to see what everyone's making, and from tonight and for the rest of the week, if you get back into it and do some more, would love to see the different stages.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll send a feedback form to everyone who's attending, and if you do have any pictures, just send them over to me, and I can pass them on to Ruth. We'd love to see how you're all going along with it. So yeah, we'll wrap up. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Ruth, and have a lovely evening, guys. All right, take care.
On Instagram or wherever, be lovely. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.